Saturn has a very disciplining effect. Saturn energy urges you, so even if you don't know anything about astrology, sometimes you just feel an urge to discipline yourself. You feel an urge to have more structure in your life or in a certain part of your life. That's in essence, the influence or the energy of Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it's also a positive influence. Hello, welcome to Astrology Insights. My name is Vincent Botella, and I started this channel on YouTube together with Ricardo Prince. I have been a professional astrologer for over 20 years now, but interested in astrology for already over 40 years or something like that. Today we have our first guest, David, and we're going to discuss some, you might say just things in his life, but I want to use this podcast to show everybody how the actual events in heaven, so planets transiting, planets passing several points in his chart, reflect themes in your life. They don't cause these themes, they just reflect them. Astrology is not about causation by planetary energies. It's not like that. But the planets have proven to be, over the centuries and over millennia, to be very good and very wise reflectors, you might say, of humanly affairs. So that's thank you very much for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
We want to do this more often. So thank you for giving us this opportunity. And thank you also for opening up already, because, sometimes we touch upon sensitive subjects. That's all in the game in what I consider real astrology.
Yes.
You have some questions prepared for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one question that's on top of mind right now, which concerns my Jupiter and Saturn.
Yeah, because you have already been diving into astrology.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've been diving into astrology for the past about 2 years.
Okay.
And this aspect came about also because I'm a bit low on cash these days.
Okay.
Like work isn't as smooth as it used to be.
Yeah.
In the past years, and I was wondering if the Jupiter and Saturn have something to do with that.
Possibly. When I look at your chart, I checked before. You have what is called in astrology Saturn transiting your natal Jupiter. So you have a natal chart, the chart that you were born with.
Mm-hmm.
You have Jupiter in a certain position. In your case, it's in the third house, Jupiter, and Saturn, where it is now, right now, is exactly 180 degrees just across the zodiac circle. That's called an opposition in astrology. And it will be in that position, and that's what I prepared for almost a year. It's 8 months, but if you also take the time that it's really close, but not just there, and also the time that it will have passed this point opposite Jupiter, all in all, at least a year. Sometimes Saturn touches a point in the natal chart just once, most commonly 3 times, and on some occasions 5 times, but mostly 3 times.
And is it because of the retrograde?
Yes.
I see.
Yes. To put it simple, Sun and Moon move around the Earth from a geocentric point of view in a very smooth pattern. The other planets seem to go, from our point of view on Earth, like in the case of Saturn, it's like he takes 3 steps forward and then 2 steps backwards. So, and when he moves like that, he goes really slow past certain sensitive points in your chart. So therefore, he touches usually a certain point 3 times.
I see.
And in real life, it means that you're sort of struggling with this theme for, like in your case, for a year or something. And you have been already struggling with this theme, I know, from you for quite a couple of months already. Very much in general, Jupiter and Saturn are economic indicators. They, when you, as an astrologer, just look at society and you wanted to say something about economy, the most obvious way to go is to look at Saturn and Jupiter, because they signify, if you look at them in these economic terms, growth or contraction, wealth or restrictions of wealth. That's the interplay of Saturn and Jupiter. In this case, we're talking about a transit Saturn, so an actual Saturn and a natal Jupiter. Your natal Jupiter in the third house means something like it's easy for you to communicate with anybody in your direct surroundings. You're a person that makes contact really easy and in a very positive, uplifting way. And somehow this seems to be in this period, because of Saturn being more restricted. It seems like it's not flowing so much. So perhaps that has to do also with your economic circumstances. I wouldn't say that's the only reason, but I didn't check your chart for economics. Your question was just, has this transit Saturn something to do with Jupiter, my Jupiter in the chart? The only thing is, that's also a somewhat technical aspect of astrology. In David's chart, Jupiter rules the sixth house, at least part of the sixth house. That's a bit of a technical aspect of astrology that I cannot explain how that works, so you just have to take that as a fact. But the interpretation of this means that it rules daily affairs, daily rhythms. And very often this has the meaning daily work, because it's a thing that comes back every day. It's the things that you do to sustain yourself. When Saturn is hitting that, it means a restriction. There's some restriction on your daily activities, daily work. There's a restriction on your contacts. There's a restriction on the way to move in your surroundings, direct surroundings. And the interesting thing is that Saturn, actual Saturn, transiting Saturn, is going through your ninth house. So he's making this opposition from the ninth house towards the third house. And you might interpret that as that you are limiting yourself, I guess, by conscious beliefs. The ninth house has to do with conscious beliefs. So not so much unconscious beliefs or whatever, but really conscious ideas. Quite the ninth house has to do with philosophy and, really developed spiritual or philosophical ideas. Somehow they seem to limit you in your ability to move. In the most basic sense, also a basic economic sense, because the third house also has to do with all kinds of traffic, including economic traffic, just commercial traffic, just money going to and fro. This is being restricted by, how would you describe that? High expectations, high ideals.
I can definitely see it in myself. Okay.
Can you elaborate on that?
It's I have all these ideas, and there's only these deep philosophical ideas, and I feel like
for quite some time. Busy now with,
especially for the past several years, and I feel it's today I really realized it's limiting me in actually reaching more and more people, because there's a part of me that wants to be seen in the depth of the knowledge that I have. But that's limiting my ability to actually share the knowledge in a more accessible way with more people. That's what I'm really realizing today as well.
The influence of Saturn can be actually quite highbrow. Sort of very limiting, sort of very almost elite-like influence it can have. And like an archetypical image of Saturn is the sorcerer or the monk or the hermit on top of the mountain. On the top, but really lonely, not in touch with anybody, just being super wise on his own.
I felt like that a lot in the past. Well, wise is a relative term, but
Yeah, but in your own wisdom, in your
Yes.
own project or longing to attain wisdom, a really
Yeah.
high wisdom.
Yeah,
Saturn in the ninth house can indicate high wisdom.
yeah, I see that.
Yeah. So that's how we might interpret, for example, a transit. In this case, a transit of Saturn over Jupiter. In this case, it was an opposition. Opposition can indicate a conflict between the energy of one part of the chart and the energy of the other part of the chart. So the natal part of the chart, so that's something inside, that was this Jupiter, symbolized by Jupiter in the third house, which is actually a very open attitude, easy in contact. But for some time, there has been this limiting energy of Saturn. Saturn is already for a while in the ninth house, so that's probably why you say a few years. But now it's coming sort of to a climax, because now it's really in touch with Jupiter. Well, climax is maybe the wrong word because it's limiting energy. And you can see this effect. It sort of mirrors what you see in the sky, in heaven.
I have a question that comes
Yeah.
up. Like, can it also have a positive influence of me limiting a lot of contacts and going more deep into myself?
That's definitely also an interpretation. Saturn is not just bad; it's restrictive. Restrictive is sometimes experienced as negative when it restricts your income and stuff like that, or your contacts. But Saturn has a very disciplining effect. Saturn energy urges you, so even if you don't know anything about astrology, sometimes you just feel an urge to discipline yourself. You feel an urge to have more structure in your life or in a certain part of your life. That's in essence, the influence or the energy of Saturn. So yes, it's also a positive influence.
That's good to hear. Yeah. And I can see the positive influence as well. Yeah.
Yeah,